mark. Let's jump into the Sean Mannion news. Jacob, if you get any comments that are around Sean Mannion, mark them for me. And obviously the Super Chats, guys, we'll hit at the end of the segment, and we'll hit all of those comments and questions at the end. So Packers lose quarterbacks coach to the Eagles. Obviously, the news here, I seen the tweet go out from the Philadelphia Eagles. There were also insiders like Adam Schefter that were covering it. They said, sources, Eagles are hiring Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator. Mannion interviewed twice for the Eagles OC job, and now will be moving on from Green Bay. The big thing that sticks out to me here is they were running a bit of an RPR system, right, where it's run, pass, run option with Jalen Hurts. It's not that that would change at all, but I think it's wild that they may now press into what Matt LaFleur has done, obviously, with Sean Mannion being the quarterback's coach. They've seen something about that offense and said, hey, we want to implement a little bit more of that into what we do in Philly. So, again, great scheme, great coach and everything. So here is the latest, all right? It's a significant loss for the offensive room. Sean Mannion has been a fast riser in the coaching ranks, and his departure to become the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles leaves a major void in Jordan Love's support system. Here is the updated side-by-side comparison with the quarterback's coach position added. So this is all of the changes when it comes to the Packers coaching staff so far this year, okay? Again, Jeff Hafley goes to Miami, so Jonathan Gannon is hired as the new defensive coordinator. Derek Ansley announces he's not returning after Bobby Babich was hired as the new defensive passing game coordinator / secondary, so he basically takes Ansley's place. I don't think Ansley will be back, but I'm still in the back of my mind going, if he doesn't get any other offers and Matt wants him on his staff, why would he not stay on staff, right? But maybe he felt insulted by the fact that Bobby Babich came in and took that. I don't know. I haven't heard anything behind the scenes. Defensive backs coach, we lost Ryan Downer to the Miami Dolphins. He is replaced, obviously, by Bobby Babich, who's going to be the passing game coordinator and secondary coach. Now, is there a chance they add another secondaries coach in there? It's possible, right? I wouldn't rule that out. But right now, the fact that we got that role combined there with Bobby Babich, I really like the move. Linebacker coach, Sean Duggan goes to the Miami Dolphins with Jeff Hafley. We hired Sam Cephas. All right, Sam Cephas, obviously a Wisconsin native, former Cardinals linebacker coach under Jonathan Gannon, also served as the DC at Virginia Tech and as a Vikings defensive assistant when Zimmer was up there as their defensive coordinator. So that moves along to, right, quarterbacks coach, Sean Mannion, leaving for the Philadelphia Eagles. So who's going to be the new quarterbacks coach for the Green Bay Packers? The internal candidates are potentially Luke Getsy. All right. Now, Luke Getsy, I don't think he's gotten any offers. He may have had an interview or two, Jacob. I don't know if you heard anything on that, but Luke Getsy seems to be the senior, offensive assistant. Now, there's some people that don't like Luke Getsy. No matter what he did in Chicago, guys, as the offensive coordinator, when he was in Green Bay as the quarterback's coach, I mean, he was the QB coach when Aaron Rodgers won those 2 MVPs, if I remember correctly. Now, he may have won one without him, but nonetheless, Luke Getsy is someone you would have a lot of faith in, Jacob, to be your quarterback coach. Another name that's being mentioned is Connor Lewis. That's another early name to watch, which I don't know much about Connor Lewis. I would be totally fine with Luke Getsy stepping right in as the QB coach. What's your thoughts on that? Or would you rather him go outside of the building and just keep Getsy as a senior assistant?
I like the idea of – yeah, honestly, I don't have a strong stance on either because, like you said, I would like to keep some sort of continuity in that room, even if it's, guys that had worked with Rodgers. I think we've seen how the tendencies, the footwork, the arm release, all that kind of stuff just has seemingly been flowing through the Packers quarterback's room and onto the field for years and years now. So maybe I would like to keep, like I said, a little bit more of a consistent presence in that room. But at the same time, I could see how maybe a little change of pace could benefit, and like Coach is saying here, I mean, it's a lot of change. We've lost 7 coaches is what he says here. You got to be kidding me. Kind of highlights what you talked about just a few minutes ago. So it sucks to have a coaches being poached, but it is a sign that other organizations see that we are a well-coached team. And I know that's been a big knock, and a lot of Packer fans would probably roll their eyes and say, well, then why did we have so many mistakes? What do we always go back to, Clayton?
Youngest roster in the league.
I mean, we're the Leo DiCaprio for sure every year.
And we had $100 million on injury lists.
Exactly. So I think that if you look at the whole case of what these coaches and the coaching staff specifically in that quarterback room have done, looking at it in a 30,000-foot view, I think we have to be pretty, trustworthy, I think, maybe too, with the new front office, knowing that they've either got guys in the pipeline or they have guys that the other people that they've coached and hired trust to bring them in. I personally love a lot of these moves here. I would definitely have loved to keep Ansley if we could, but like, I just don't feel obviously like that's going to ever work out. I love the Bobby Babich thing. Not really sure about the Sam. I don't know much about him at all, but I trust that in the next couple days, weeks, we're going to see that quarterback's coach vacancy be filled. Same thing with the defensive quality control. And I just have to have a little more faith, especially at this time of year. This is the type of year when you have hopium, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're all Super Bowl winners.
That's right. Everybody's going to win the whole thing, right? Until we get to camp and go, damn it, we got the youngest roster again. Probably going to be an uphill battle. Yeah. I don't know if this is sarcasm or not, Mose. Again, it's one of the tough parts for hosting a YouTube channel when you're just responding to text. He says, cleaning the house like the vocal minority wanted. If I'm hoping that's sarcasm. Now I'm going to treat it as if it's, and you're making it like an accurate statement. It kind of feels tongue in cheek if you are being serious here. We're not cleaning house, right? There's nobody cleaning the house. The rest of the league is actually let me put it this way. The vocal minority was saying this coaching staff sucks, get rid of everybody, right? And the rest of the league is going, hey, we want everybody on that coaching staff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're not cleaning house like the local or like the vocal minority wanted. The rest of the league is poaching them. That's what's happening. Now, if you want to say cleaning house is bringing in Bobby Babich as your defensive passing game coordinator, okay, cool. I think that what Jonathan Gannon said was he looked up and said Derek Ansley's still going to be on staff most likely. I would rather go get someone that I think is going to be a better defensive passing game coordinator to hold that position as opposed to, obviously Derek Ansley. So to me, that's an upgrade. That's I don't know. It just blows my mind. There was another question here too I wanted to hit on. Well, actually, go ahead and hit that one. I'll get the other one.
Yeah, just because it's a little bit right on the nose. The Freedom House 1984 says it's better to lose coaches because you're good than the purge the Jets are going through. It means you evaluate talent well. So yeah, I would say that comment previously was more along these lines where you feel like that you're so bad that they're just cutting ties with everybody. This is more like we're so good, or they see us in their eyes of doing such a great job that they are trying to literally poach our talent. So.
Right. Yeah. And let's see here. Insufferable Packer Doug says, yesterday I said if Mannion gets hired as OC while we keep Steno, I'm going to be insufferable. And so here we are, and I'm with a new name. So he obviously he feels like they should have promoted, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, though, but he feels like they should have promoted Sean Mannion to OC, demoted Adam Stenavich, right? Now, if you demote Adam Stenavich, okay, he can also say, fire me and go somewhere else. So it's obvious that Matt LaFleur sees a lot of value in Steno. Now, there was someone else that had a comment. I think they might have been referring to that. Soder said, what is it that you don't like about Steno? I hate the offensive tempo. Too many time taking the play clock to zero. Running game mismatch between running back and offensive line. It feels like this is more on LaFleur. Now, here's the thing. You go and you listen to Brian Bulaga break this down, right? This is Brian Bulaga, a former NFL offensive lineman. When he watches the tape, he doesn't look up and say it's a coaching problem. He doesn't look up and say it's a scheme problem. Now, he thinks we should get back to wide zone boot. Well, why did we get away from wide zone boot, guys? Who knows the answer to that? Because I remember it was a big topic. When Josh Jacobs was signed in free agency, it was he's not a wide zone guy. So look for more gap stuff. Look for more duo, right? And that's what they pressed into. So if you want to blame anybody for the running game system changing, Brian Gutekunst signed Josh Jacobs, and now you've got to adjust to that player. Now, I think we would all agree Josh Jacobs has been a great football player. But do we want to be wide zone boot, or do we want to be, inside? We still run inside zone, don't get me wrong. But more gap stuff, it seems like, more pin and pull, more pulling, essentially. So, yeah, when you look at that, I don't look up at the running game mismatch between the running back and the offensive line and feel like this is more on Matt LaFleur. I put it more on Goody, like, okay, you went and got a back that can't run a wide zone boot. Can he? I would like to see it. I would love to see if Josh Jacobs could do it. I think he probably could, but it's obvious that they all got together and decided this is a route we want to go. Now, in terms of Steno, tell me what he does, right? What does Steno do? That's why I've been negative on him. Like, Matt LaFleur calls the plays. So Steno is helping design the game plan. And I'm not saying Steno is a bad coach, but who is the offensive line woes fall on? It's got to be one of two people, okay? It's either got to be the offensive line coach, which some people believe is Adam Stenavich. He's just got the OC, so other people couldn't poach him as an offensive line coach. And many people don't know. I think he started with San Francisco. So he was a highly touted offensive line coach, right? And we took him away to be our OC. So I don't know if that was a direct move there or not, but I know he was with San Fran as their offensive line coach or an assistant there. So it's got to either be the offensive line coaches or the players. It could be a little bit of both. So I say I'm a dumb redneck fan. I don't know what I'm talking about. What does a former offensive lineman say in Brian Bulaga? You know what he says? Guys, this ain't on the coaching. You've got the most you can get out of this offensive line. You need better players. That's what he's saying. So that falls at Brian Gutekunst's feet. Now, that's when the Matt LaFleur haters will still steer the conversation with, how do you know Matt ain't making the decisions? Because we know Matt doesn't have the final decision on the roster. That's Brian Gutekunst. So no matter which way you look at that, if Matt is saying, I want these offensive linemen, Goody's deciding, okay, Matt, you can have them, rather than making the tough decision, which is the GM's job of getting the best players on the roster. Now, are these the players he thinks are the best players? I think they are. But has it panned out on offensive line? It hasn't. And again, it comes down to allocation. You've got a 7th-round left tackle making mistakes in the biggest games of the year. Okay, 7th rounder. What are we expecting from a 7th-round pick? You know, that's the tough part. So the other side too, you know, you've got all the injuries, right? With Zach Tom going out, obviously with injury, from time to time. You've got Elton Jenkins going down with an injury. So your offensive line is decimated with injuries to the point where you've got your 4th-string center on the potential game-winning drive. Who's that on? Is that on Matt LaFleur? No. To me, that's on 2 different people. The GM, because he's selecting these players that keep getting hurt, and or the training staff. Well, we've changed the training staff recently. You're getting all these problems that continue to happen, and there's only one person who's been here the entire time. And again, I don't hate Brian Gutekunst. I just don't understand how his name never gets mentioned in any of this, Jake. It's just like full pass. And again, I don't think they should fire him. You know what I chalk it up to? Really bad luck last year. It was over $90 million in cap space that was hurt. Now, the people that say that's an excuse, that doesn't matter, I'm going to challenge you. Go build a roster of a team. Just jot it down on paper and leave and stay $90 million under the cap this year, not in the future, not 3 years from now, this year in 2026. Build me a roster that's $90 million under the cap and try to convince me they should win a Super Bowl. I will laugh in your face.
You know what's funny too is like just because we were kind of messing around with that graphic that I sent you, but here's this, like you said. So the Packers were at 92.2 million. Guess who was the most highest with the most reserved people that were on basically injured reserve? It was the Cardinals, the Browns, the Jets, the Chiefs, us, who were the top 5, meaning they had the least amount of people that were injured on cap. The Seahawks, the Eagles, the Rams, the Patriots, followed by the Panthers, the Broncos, the Jags. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a little bit of a pattern there, you know?
I'm telling you, dude, you also combine that with the average age of the roster as well.
Exactly.
Right. And it's like you've got 2 horrible scenarios where you've got the youngest roster in the league, and there's never been a team in the history of the game that had the youngest roster that year that's won the Super Bowl. I know you guys are tired of hearing it. I'm tired of saying it, but I feel like I'm the only person on the face of the earth that's mentioning this from time to time. So you've got the youngest roster in the league. Your back's against the wall winning the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. Like you've got to be the first team in 60 years to do so. All right. And then on top of that, you have all of those injuries. That's how you get to week 15 or 16. And I'm tossing the marker around over here going, boys, run out of steam. I just don't. If you can win the Super Bowl while having $90 million of your cap space sitting on injured reserve or PUP or whatever it is, I mean, boy, are you one hell of a coach. Well, what's the proper expectations for a coach and the season for them to have with $90 million in cap space on injured list? Making the playoffs? Well, we did that. We've done it 3 years in a row with the youngest roster, right? And on top of that, you got Jordan Love playing some of his best football. And I know there's some people that'll steer the conversation to, well, now that Sean Mannion's gone, Jordan Love's going to suck. It's the same conversation we were having last year when Tom Clements left. Remember that? It was, well, now let's see what Jordan does without Tom Clements. Well, all of a sudden, Sean Mannion rises to the occasion, gets an offensive coordinator job. So it's like there's one thing, just like on the opposite, when you're talking negatives, there's one thing that's existed this entire time throughout that whole process, Matt LaFleur. And you continue to get stellar quarterback play. So, again, I'm not saying Matt's perfect. I just don't know of another coach definitely a coach that was available I would rather have over Matt. And there's only maybe 3 or 4 coaches across the league that I would rather have than Matt, to be honest with you. So, number one Packer fan, we'll hit this and then we'll wrap up this segment. Number one Packer fan says Steno was too busy helping the O-line room. Remember, seems strange that your OC is spending time doing his O job and his current job. It's a great point. And that's why I give a little more grace to Steno than I do Butkus. Because I'm like, ever since Butkus took over as the offensive line coach, it's went downhill, right? So, that's one common thing. That's probably the starting point. How about we change that? That's why I was in favor of bringing in Mike McDaniel to be your offensive coordinator and have Steno work with the offensive line. If you have co-offensive coordinators, however you want to candy it up. Now, obviously, Mike McDaniel wants to call the plays. So I do not want Mike McDaniel calling the plays over Matt LaFleur. I do not. Sorry. There's nobody going to convince me. There's a reason Mike McDaniel doesn't have a head coaching job. He was the play caller in Miami, right? And he got canned. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to replace the guy who's, like I said, 16th all-time winning percentage with a different play caller who can't hold a head coaching job. So, I don't know, just something that's I could be wrong. That's just the way I see it. But anyway, that is your new quarter or the news on your quarterback coach exchange. Obviously, we got a defensive quality control opening as well with the Ball King going to Miami. So we'll see who fills that void. And I'm sure to be some young name we don't know about, Jacob, that in 3 or 4 years will be getting looked at for defensive coordinator jobs and position coach jobs. But if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know. How do you feel about the departure of Sean Mannion? Are you concerned about it? Are you not concerned about it? How do you think this will affect Jordan Love's play? Who should they replace him with? Are you okay with Luke Getsy stepping into that role? Do you think Luke Getsy might turn that role down, right? Maybe he's looking for something else. Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams.